Anna. Thank you very much.
Good morning, good day, everyone. My name is Anna Abalkina. I'm a research fellow at Freie Universität in Berlin, and I would like to present you the topic on hijacked journals. So why it is important and what are the hijacked journals? What are the consequences for scientific communication? And what are the remedies? So these are the topics that I would like to talk about today. So first of all, what are hijacked journals? Hijacked journals represent a type of a cybercrime. So hijacked journals, they mimic legitimate journals and copy their metadata, ISSN title, to cheat potential authors. Hijacked journals, they mimic open access model of publishing. They collect fees and they publish papers online. And this cybercrime is a $1 million business. So here on this slide, you can see a Turkish journal of physiotherapy and rehabilitation. So on the left side, this is a legitimate journal. And on the right side, this is a print screen of a hijacked journal. So the title, as you can see, of a journal is identical, but the content and papers are totally different. Every month, there are numerous new hijacked journals that appear and that are registered online. So nowadays, more than 250 cases of hijacked journals were documented. And we don't know how many hijacked journals are not documented because this phenomena was first registered in 2011, 2012. And so since that time, there were not regular checks on hijacked journals. How journals are hijacked? The first method is the registration of the expired domain of a legitimate journal. So it means that a journal, for example, just switched to a new web domain or forgot to re-register the domain. And so hijackers register this well-known website, and then they publish unauthorized and not legitimate content in this website. Or legitimate websites can be hacked by cybercriminals, or hijacked journals can create an alternative web domain of a legitimate journal. Or, for example, think that there are a lot of journals that have print version only. And so the web domain of a hijacked journal, web domain of this journal can be the only one for this legitimate journal. It is important to differ hijacked journals and predatory journals. For sure, they have a lot of in common features, but they also differ from each other. First of all, predatory journals are legitimate journals from the point of view of law. So they are legally registered. They have a legitimate title and legitimate ISSN. I don't speak about the content that is legitimate or not. This is another discussion. So from the point of view of law, they are legally registered. They are legitimate. They have legitimate title and ISSN. Hijacked journals, they are illegitimate journals because they mimic mimic reputable journals. Well, in hijacked journals, both in hijacked journals and predatory journals, there are a violation of publication ethics, and there are a lot of cases registered in predatory journals and also in hijacked journals. Hijacked journals violate intellectual property rights, and in many jurisdictions, journals hijacking can be considered as a fraud. What is also important, that papers submitted to hijacked journals are not considered to be published. But anyway, such papers are cited by respectable journals. In predatory journals, papers are officially published. And this fact has a lot of consequences, because many hijacked journals, and I speak about it later, they are indexed in different scientometric databases. And in these scientometric databases, they delete unauthorized content by hijacked journals. And in case of predatory journals, if the journal is de-indexed, all the content remain in these scientometric databases. So it's de-indexed since a certain period of time. Both hijacked journals and predatory journals, they inflate their impact factors, they have fake editor boards, and so on. What are the signs? What are the features of hijacked journals? First feature is multidisciplinarity. What does it mean? It means that hijacked journals, they try to publish as many papers as they can, because hijacked journals normally are active for a certain period of time, for months, sometimes years, and that's why they try to publish all types of papers despite the title of a journal. For example, this is an example of a hijacked journal, Novi Mir, that is a literature journal, and you can see that the papers absolutely don't correspond to the title of the journal, like storage management and big data, or hospitality students, and so on. Or example of a Turkish journal. Here, no papers, if you can look at the titles of the papers, there are no papers devoted to physiotherapy or rehabilitation. So there are just development of linguistic competence, or the influence of multimedia in teaching languages, and so on and so forth. The second feature is a fake editor board. So this is again an example of a journal, Novi Mir, and so here associate editors that are mentioned on the website, and this is absolutely identical editor boards to the legitimate journal of the journal World Scientific. So identical names. So sometimes journals, they just copy editor boards from legitimate journals. Or there is another possibility that they put, like in the case of two journals, Converter and Annals of the Romanian Society for Cell Biology, they just put a combination of letters that look like a name, and such person, Rion Owen, such person doesn't exist even. These journals, for sure, they don't provide any peer review. Once I tried to submit a text taken from Wikipedia, and I submitted it to hijacked journal. And in 2 days, I've got a reply that my paper was accepted with originality of 80%. There was no any original word in that. And that the results are satisfactory and that references are cited properly. And I was offered to publish in this journal, paying the fee of $200. Another feature is a fake archive. Hijacked journals, they need to show that this actually journal works for a long period of time. And in this case, they need to show an archive. And this is a problem, how to replenish such an archive, because there could be some legal problems if a journal uses the papers by legitimate authors and of the real legitimate journal, and that the authors can identify such hijacked journal, and this is not good for their business. So in this case, journals, or they close access to their archive. So, for example, sorry, you don't have access to this article, or kindly mail to the journal to access an archive. Or hijacked journals, they use artificial intelligence to write actually papers to replenish archive, like in the case of solid state technology, or they they replenish papers by already published papers in other hijacked journals, like in this case of Waffen- and Kostümkunde hijacked journal. And this is the network of web domains that share the same archive in their websites. And so that was also a possibility to detect such hijacked journals. So here there are 62 web domains. This is one of the largest networks of hijacked journals. And I guess that the founders of this network live and work in India. The next question, why are hijacked journals a challenge? First of all, because hijacked journals publish papers without peer review. And it leads to several consequences. First of all, to an inadequate evaluation of publication record. Results can be considered as legitimate without peer review. And also, important to know that all published papers in hijacked journals, they disappear after the domain expires, because hijacked journal, they work for rather short period of time. Also, it was found that papers published in hijacked journals are accompanied by academic misconduct. I did a study of text similarities in papers originated from hijacked journal, and I randomly selected 961 papers and analyzed for text similarities. I found that approximately 40% of the sample contained significant plagiarism of text similarities more than 25%. And I manually checked each paper to understand that it is a plagiarism instead of legitimate citation. And these findings suggest that fraudulent journals attract dishonest authors. So this is just a demonstration. On your left, you can see the paper published in a hijacked journal. And on the right, it was this paper was taken from another journal, and the authors are different. So in this sample of 961 papers, scholars represent different countries. The main affiliation is with India, but there are also other countries, mainly developing one, but also there are authors from Western countries like USA who published papers in hijacked journals. Another problem of hijacked journals is that they are cited by papers published in reputable journals. In the joint study with Guillaume Cabanac, Alexander Magazinov, and Cyril Labet, we detected 828 papers in legitimate journals which cited unreliable papers in hijacked journals, and we looked only at 12 hijacked journals, at the titles of 12 hijacked journals. These papers were published in more than 300 journals of 67 publishers. And we call this phenomenon as hijacked papers. So papers in legitimate journals that cite hijacked journals are called hijacked. And Guillaume Cabanac, he developed a hijacked detector, and you can have access to the full list of these 828 papers just going through this website. And here, this is an example. This paper was published in PLOS ONE on your left about COVID-19, and look, it cites a paper also about something about corona pandemic that was published in the Journal of Archaeology of Egypt and Egyptology. That has actually, the title of the journal has nothing similar to in common with coronavirus. Or another paper about Internet of Things, something like that, cites a paper on technologies that was published in the journal Linguistica Antwerpensia. That is a linguistic journal. Also, again, it has nothing in common with the technologies it speaks about. This paper speaks about. Another consequence of journal hijacking is a challenge that hijacked journals are legitimized by scientific databases, because hijacked journals, they know how to penetrate in scientific databases. Hijacked journals were found and were detected in Scopus. The links to hijacked journals were detected in Scimago as a homepage of a legitimate journal. Google Scholar index quite all hijacked journals. It was also found in the Russian scientific database eLibrary. And recently, papers from hijacked journals were found in World Health Organization COVID-19 library. So this is the print screen of Scopus. And this page represents the indexation of papers from journal Annals of the Romanian Society for Cell Biology. All papers that you see here were published in hijacked journal. On your left, you can see the dynamics of publications in hijacked journal, in the legitimate journal. And you see that, well, Scopus indexed just several dozens of papers each year, and suddenly in 2021, 3,183 journals. All of them were published in hijacked journal. Also, you can see, and this is one of the signs of hijacked journal, the page numbers that are quite unreliable, unbelievable. And non-authorized content remained for years in Scopus. And so, for example, this journal, Test Engineering and Management, that was hijacked several years ago. And also hijackers found the possibility to index unauthorized content in Scopus. And here you can see also on the left, several dozens of papers each year, and suddenly in 2019, only 323 papers that remain in the database, and these two papers are also from a hijacked journal. Another case, Linguistica Antwerpensia. The fact of journal hijacking was detected in June 2021, so last year. And since that time, the Scopus deleted all unauthorized content in June 2021. Since that time, the content from a hijacked journal was indexed 7 times. And the last time it happened just several weeks ago, when new 7 papers from hijacked journal were indexed in Scopus. So the problem is not only the indexation in Scopus, but also the problem is when the problem was detected, it still continues. And because hijacked journals, they always revive from ashes, like phoenix bird. Nowadays, there are about 30 journals. I found about 30 journals that were indexed in Scopus. I mean, 30 hijacked journals that were indexed in Scopus, or their link was mentioned as a homepage in Scopus. Maybe if we look and say, okay, 30 journals are not a big number, it's not so important. Well, it represents about, it's about 5% of all journals that were de-indexed from Scopus. And also, if we look at country profiles, the share of content from hijacked journals is much more important. So when I found this problem about Scopus indexation in May and June 2021, last year, I found that the share of unauthorized content in the profile of Uzbekistan was 41%. So it means that 41% of papers affiliated with Uzbekistan and papers published in 2021, so 41% of papers published in 2021 were from hijacked journals. The same indicator in Iraq was more than 8%, and in India, 1.5%. But in India, the share is rather low in comparison with Iraq or Uzbekistan, but we should take in consideration that the scholars affiliated with India have a much bigger number of papers published in hijacked journals. And also I started to make a list of hijacked journals that were indexed in Scopus or which were hijacked journals whose homepage link was mentioned in the Scopus profile of the journal. And so this list you can easily find on internet. But there are some good news because the problem with hijacked journals was that there were no reliable lists of hijacked journals, or such lists were not updated regularly. And so since May 2022, I started to update the list of hijacked journals in cooperation with the Retraction Watch. So in May 2022, we launched together Retraction Watch Hijacked Journal Checker. So this is the print screen of Hijacked Journal Checker. You can find here the title of a hijacked journal, its website, and the title and ISSN code of original journal. And this is a very useful tool to check if the journal is hijacked or not. So Hijacked Journal Checker is regularly updated. Nowadays, it has 158 hijacked journals operating since 2020. So this list contains only journals that are active since 2020, because we don't have any opportunity to check the journals that are not active, or whose websites are not active anymore. It lists websites with hijacked journals. There is also a possibility to submit a hijacked journal title if it is not in the list of hijacked journals. Here I just propose some additional reading on hijacked journals. I would say that that the problem is not properly addressed nowadays. And it seems that I have an impression that if nobody studies this problem, it seems like there is no problem. No, it means that nowadays we don't study a lot this problem. And I guess that the extent of the problem is much higher than we think. I also would like to advertise my Twitter, because I always speak about new hijacked journals on Twitter. So this is what I wanted to tell you today. If you have some questions, please.
Thank you very much. My question is, the issue in the scholarly communication recently is predatory publishing. We like talking about predatory publishing. This is popular. We try to understand what is predator or what is not. This is the trend, but nobody consider the problem of the issue of hijacked journals. But I think it is the problem, because hijacked journals are illegitimate. Hijacked journals copy the content of legitimate journals. They copy the editorial boards. They create fake websites and hunting the articles. And what do you think about why we are talking a lot about predatory journals, not hijacked ones? Why we are caring more the hijacked predatory journals? What do you think?
Well, this is a good question. Why we care more? I guess because the problem of predatory journals and predatory also publishers that are kind of legitimate from the legal point of view publishers that allow to publish a lot of papers by scholars, and if we look at the difference between hijacked journals and predatory journals, I mentioned it, that like in the Scopus, when the hijacked journal is detected, so all the content is deleted. Actually, not all content is deleted, because not long time ago, I found also a paper indexed in 212, so 10 years ago, that was published in hijacked journal and was indexed in Scopus. So it's just 10 years already in Scopus. But the problem of predatory publishing and predatory journals, that this content actually exists even if the journal is delisted and if the journal is not reliable anymore. It is forever in scholarly communication. Hijacked journals, they are deleted somehow, so it's a temporary. They are legitimized by synthemetric databases, and they are legitimized by citations. So this is the reason, because predatory publishing is also a big problem. There are, well, the extent of predatory, the level of predatory journals can be different, because there could be really fraudulent journals that publish anything in predatory publishing. And this is, yes, this is a challenge. This is a big challenge. But I would like to say that actually the methods how hijacked journals and predatory journals, they attract clients are common, because there is evidence that a lot of paper mills or broker companies, they work both with predatory journals and with hijacked journals. Because think, if a new website was created, how this journal can attract like 3,000 papers during several months, as in the case of Romanian journal that I showed you that indexed all these papers in Scopus. Well, it's more than 3,000 papers in several months. It's a lot. It means that they work with broker companies in different countries that attract clients. Predatory journals, they do the same. They also work with broker companies or with paper mills, and they publish papers. And the level of, both in predatory journals and hijacked journals, there are a lot of papers that are accompanied by academic misconduct of different level, or there is authorship fraud or plagiarism or fabrication of data, and so on. Hijacked journals are not so numerous as a predatory, because when we speak about predatory journals, there are thousands of them, and hijacked journal only hundreds.
Yeah.
But this is, but also I would like to say that hijacked journals are not well studied to make good conclusions.
Thank you very much for the answer. We have a question from Jarosław Bener from Jagiellonian University in Poland. He's asking, do you consider a journal imitating in some ways in the name of prestige, legitimate journal as a kind of hijacking practices?
You know, in hijacked journal, it's in case of predatory journal, there are a big debate what we consider as a predatory journal. There is a big debate, and there is no consensus in academia about what is predatory journal. As for hijacked journal, there is no debate at all, because it is a binary category. So we don't need to use a sophisticated language to call predatory journal, because normally we call it questionable journal or journal with a certain practices. So we don't name predatory, we don't say predatory, because because there is no consensus. In the case of hijacked journal, it's a binary category. So the hijacked journal is a journal that mimics legitimate journal by creating or an alternative website, or by hacking the website or registering the expired web domain. So it is not a legitimate journal, not registered journal. So this is the definition. And so in the case of a journal, a sort of, so answer on this question. Here we have to understand if the journal actually is legally registered or not. If it is legally registered, it has its own ISSN code. So it's not hijacking in this binary definition. So it could be just a predatory journal that uses this kind of method to attract clients, also to dupe clients, yes, potential authors.
We have 40 participants.
I have another question.
Please.
Predatory journals or predatory publishing is a term that used very common in Turkey, but not hijacked journals. We know that Turkey do not have a good name about predatory publishing or about hijacked journals. But I'm curious about what do you think, or how can you evaluate the situation of Turkey about hijacked journals, hijacked publishing?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for your question. I give a more extended answer about journal hijacking. So if we look at what journals are hijacked normally. Normally, small journals, university journals, not famous journals are hijacked, but those that are indexed in Scopus or Web of Science, because scholars need to show their publications in journals that are indexed in those databases. So small journals indexed in Scopus or Web of Science are a potential target for hijackers. And I would say that last year it was a trend of hijacking Chinese journals, Chinese university journals published by universities. And there was a trend of hijacking Turkish journals. A lot of Turkish journals were hijacked last year, like the one that I showed you. Another journal called Turkomat that was hijacked, and it also was indexed in Scopus, and has a lot of consequences. Also with indexing this World Health Organization COVID-19 library and so on. So I would say that, but Turkey, well, is just one of the countries that has this problem, because many countries in Germany or United States, in China, in Russia, in I don't know, in Italy. So this is the problem of many publishers, small publishers, or individual journals.
I think, do you have any questions, our participants? We have 40 participants in the list. We are trying to control the spam, so please, we are sorry for this kind of control on Zoom. If you have any question, please write it. And if you're not, I have a last question. We always try to classify journals as hijacked, quality, legitimate, indexed. But what do you think, what is the solution of research evaluation problem? Because we try to understand the quality, the levels of journals, but we should care more about the quality of articles or quality of papers, because it is very hard to understand the levels of journals. It is very hard to understand. But if we enhance the process of research evaluation, and we should extend it using some expert panels and so on, maybe we should handle this predatory or hijacked journal problems. What do you think about it? This is my point of view, but what do you think about this?
I think that hijacked journals, together with predatory journals, are the result of the evaluation of research that was introduced in many developing countries. Because if you look at the trend of last decades, many countries started to integrate in the international publication market because of new evaluation system, like it happened in China, or new reward system like in Middle East countries, or some publication requirements like in Southeast Asia, or new legislation like it happened in 2011 in Russia. So all these researchers had to publish papers in international journals, maybe without adequate qualification to write papers that are suitable for publications in legitimate international journals. And for sure, this problem of measurement has such consequences also in publishing. But this is a question to policymakers, how to review and evaluate the research output. Peer review is not a perfect solution, but the best that we have nowadays. But unfortunately, many broker companies and paper mills, they now know how to dupe also the system of peer review.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Anna. We are very happy to have you today. We learned a lot of things about hijacked journals, and we are very happy to listen all these kind of your works and your list on retraction watch, because we know the problem of hijacked journals, but we now have a tool on retraction watch to understand what is hijacked or what is not. It is very great tool for our researchers.
There's another question.
Yeah. Why some
journals let their names expire or subsequently be registered as drop names, but someone else?
So this is a very good question. Actually, think of an individual journal published by a university or by community. Normally, editors, they are responsible for peer review and content. These journals, small journals that work in a very specialized topic, like Waffen- and Kostümkunde. This is a German journal devoted to arms and costumes, military arms and costumes. So this is a very small international community. And they actually think about papers, about quality of papers rather than of website, how to register, how to promote it in their research engines. So they are not aware of that. So how? Because maybe our journal just moved to another website, or because the journal stopped to publish, like in many cases, or because somebody forgot to register, just to update the web domain. So there are a lot of factors why it happens. Yes. And one of the remedy and the recommendations for the journals, first of all, in case of hijacking, they should immediately publish a notice on their webpage. Many journals don't do it. So this is the first thing. The second thing, they have to promote this, I don't know how it is called, but the search engine operation. So when a scholar would like to find a journal, so that the journal is in the first lines of the search, because hijacked journals do that. But unfortunately, it is very problem to tackle the problem of hijacked journals, because if legitimate journal closes the legitimate web domain, hijacked journals have the opportunity to open a new one. So it's a never-ending story.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this is the last question. And these are very good questions. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Güleda. And thank you for all our participants to join us today. We are very happy to organize the first seminar of our series. And if you have